There we go. Good evening, and welcome to the Accidental Journalist Live and Undrugged episode 5 with Shantel Page. Tonight's episode is sponsored by Darren Barden and his book, Let's Skip to the Good Bits. It's a fantastic book, and it's a great book about a survival story that kind of ties in with tonight's interview. So I'm just going to open it up now, and thanks for coming on, Shantel. So tell me a little bit about before you met your partner and how that came about.
I met him in a bar in Newcastle in the big market. I was in my early 20s when I met him. And he was like 19 years older than me. It was quite a big age difference. But I've always went for older men anyway. It's just the way I am. So we hit it off quite quickly, really. We got engaged within probably a month of being together, and moved in together as well. Wow. So kind of like very quick. But when we did things, we kind of fell in love very, very quickly. Yeah, and he was like my soulmate. We were just together, and he did everything for us, and he brought my daughter up as well from being a baby, from being 1 year old.
Right. Okay. So how old's your daughter?
She's 15 now, but she only ever knew Simon as a dad. He was very young when he come into our lives, so he took her on as his own, and he was really good with her.
Okay, so
devastated after what's happened. She's got behavioural problems. She started drinking vodka and stuff, and the police brought her back and stealing wine out the house because she just wanted to just like drink to take the pain away and stuff. Yeah.
Adults find it hard to palate, so never mind children. You know, it's adults have ways of dealing with it, children have their ways of dealing with it, and unfortunately that reflects in behaviour.
Yeah, I kind of just kept myself busy, just to help cope with it. So I was doing my act, and I used to just travel to Essex to do Mother's Child because I was the lead actress in it. So it kind of helped us just keeping busy doing that. So it helped to just take my mind off it, really. Otherwise, if I had sat in the house where we lived together in this house for 6 years, there was so many memories. I just couldn't stand it, just being there.
Okay, so I know this is going to be hard, but can you take me back to the day it happened and what happened?
Well, me and Simon had arranged to go to York to meet some friends from. They were from Newcastle, and one of them he'd known for 40 years, a really good friend. And his friend Barry, who was originally from Newcastle, but they live in Workshop now. So we met up with them, got the train about 9 o'clock in the morning, and Simon's friend Carl had dropped us off and used Simon's brand new Volkswagen van, because he was supposed to be doing the wheels that afternoon for Simon, just doing the van up anyway, and he dropped us off. So we went drinking with our friends, stayed there till about 6 o'clock, got the train back home. Carl picked us up from the train station, and I could hear Carl talking like in the van, like he was just saying, oh, I've got to go out after I drop you off. And Simon says, oh, well, I'll come with you because I've got to go and get some mixers, because he was going to watch the boxing. And we were celebrating because the day before we had just got a mortgage on a house, and it had went through. So we were kind of celebrating. But I wasn't feeling very well, so I went to bed. because I hadn't eaten all day, so I felt a bit sick off the alcohol. So I went to bed, and I never got back up because he got us a takeaway and he was shouting, "Come downstairs for this takeaway. I'm going to feed it to the dog." And I was just like, "I'll be down in 5 minutes." And I never went back downstairs, and I didn't even know if Simon had went out. I thought he was still downstairs because I could hear the boxing in the living room, and his phone was upstairs, and it kept ringing. So I didn't really think. I thought he was in the house and his phone was on charge, but he went back out anyway with his friend, and that's obviously when it's happened.
Right. Okay. So, do you know what happened?
Well, what happened was Carl, Simon's friend, had arranged to do a drug deal with a friend of his called Kurt Guy, who he'd known since he was 3 years old. So he grew up with him. And he said to Simon, he parked the van in this mini little car park in Chaddeston in Derby. It's about 10 minutes from Derby city centre. And just said to Simon, "I need the toilet. I'm just going to go around the corner to use the toilet." But Simon was drunk, so he didn't really think anything of it. But he took the van keys with him, which was strange as well. So he went off, took the van keys, said he was going to use the toilet, and apparently he was going to do a drug deal, and he got robbed. So they took the drugs off him. In Simon's van, he threw Simon's van keys, and they pulled out a Rambo-style hunting knife on Carl, but Carl ran off. And he says he tried to divert them away from the van that Simon was sat in, but he didn't. He just saved himself and left Simon to get murdered. So they went to the van, obviously going to steal this van, because I mean it was a 19 plate van. It was probably worth maybe about 35 grand. So they were going to obviously go to steal that, and they didn't expect anyone to be in it. So Simon sat in the van, oblivious to what's going on, and they stabbed him in the left leg twice, and then the right leg hit a main artery. So he'd obviously put up a fight because they had beaten him up as well. So he must have put up a fight, and he lived for 45 minutes, even though they hit a main artery, because he was in the RAF. So he obviously knew the skills of being in the army on how to kind of just try and stop the bleeding and stuff. So he tried to get help, Simon, and there was this man who heard like somebody shouting help, and they thought it was like somebody trying to burgle the house, but it was like a man and son, and he was shouting help, and they come and they tried to resuscitate Simon. He collapsed on the doorstep, tried to save his life. Carl come back, and the witnesses who tried to save Simon says he was acting all delirious and like just in shock, and then he ran off again. But Carl told me that he'd went to help Simon, but he never ever did. It was all lies, telling us that he come to my house that night telling us that Simon had been stabbed in the back, but it just wasn't the case at all. It was just all like crocodile tears and lies that come out of his mouth. And that night his wife kept ringing us, and I just thought, it'll be nothing, I'll just go back to sleep. And then I heard a car racing on the drive about 5 minutes later, and it was Carl's wife saying, "You've got to come with me to the hospital. Simon's been stabbed, but it's just a scratch, it's nothing to worry about." So I'm upstairs trying to find some clothes, running up the stairs. Didn't know what I was doing because I was just totally like shocked, and I was just didn't know whether to believe it was just because when somebody gets stabbed, it's normally serious. So I thought maybe she's just saying it to make us feel better. But within 5 minutes of her coming to the door, the police turns up and says, "You have to come with us now. It's serious. Simon's been stabbed, and it's very, very serious." So they put the sirens on, took us to the hospital with the sirens on in the police car, and I just knew, I had this gut feeling before I got there. I just thought, he's gone, he's definitely gone, because they're trying to get me here quick. Do you know, they're trying to get me to this hospital quick. They only put the sirens on when it's serious. So I got taken into a side room when I got there. I waited for what felt like forever, and then a doctor came in the waiting area, the room I was in, and just says, "Oh, we tried everything we could. He lost far too much blood. There was nothing we could kind of do to save him. We couldn't do anything to save him. So he died later on in hospital. So like 2 days later, I went to see Simon in the morgue, which was very heartbreaking because he was just, I didn't realise at the time he'd been beaten up, you see. So to see him like with his eye all closed, and he had like a footprint on his head where he'd been kicked in the head and all this. And even his daughter, Keely, she couldn't look at him. She just burst into tears. But I had to say goodbye to him because I didn't get to say goodbye to him when he was dying. So I just kissed him on the forehead and told him I'd always love him and one day we'd be together again, and just that, because I had to do it. I had to do it for me and my daughter. And then it took forever for the funeral because I had to keep a hold of Simon's body to do a couple of post-mortems and stuff. So it took about 2 months before we could actually have the funeral. So it was hard. It was really hard. But all his football friends, because he was a big Newcastle fan and England fan, they all raised £10,000 for his funeral, paid for his funeral. And one of his friends got a tattoo dedicated to Simon, like Simon's face on his leg. He was so loved, and everybody that he met thought he was amazing. He had friends from Russia, all over the country, just everywhere. Everyone he met at the football, just he thought they'd become a lifetime friend, and he would still speak to them. Like even after just meeting them once, I would swap numbers and he'd stay in touch with them and then add them on Facebook and stuff. And he met a lot of close friends through the football. So the St James's Park put Simon in the football programme when he died because he was a season ticket holder. And he was in the paper a few times, just in the Chronicle, just to say that what a big fan he was and how tragic it was when he died and stuff. So yeah, it was hard. And then when it come to going to court, I never went to all the. It was too hard for me because they were laughing. The killers were laughing. They thought it was just like a day out to them. They thought it was funny. And the judge was watching everything they were doing, and they tried to plead not guilty, but the evidence was stacked up against them, and Carl had told them, the police, everything. They got like 20, the murderer got 25 years. Kirk Guy set up the killing, he got 20 years, and the driver got, I think it was 9 years, and the two lads that cleaned the knife got 5 years, and Carl got 5 years for dealing £7,000 worth of cocaine. But he was killed for £7,000 for this cocaine, £7,000. So that had nothing to do with him, but they obviously thought that Simon was like, everybody sent us a lot of hate saying, oh, your partner was a drug dealer and all this, but Simon's fingerprints were never found on the drugs. So all Carl's fingerprints were found on the bag that the drugs were in, and Simon's name was cleared, but mud still sticks, doesn't it? And because all the papers were saying it was a drug deal gone wrong, everyone just believes it because people can be nasty. But I think it was a killer's family. A lot of them were their family that I think were being nasty because they just couldn't take the fact that their sons were in jail. So, and John Williams, the one that killed Simon, he actually stabbed somebody five years ago, a jogger. But because they used to hang around in this big gang, they all give him an alibi.
Right.
And I was talking to my liaison officer, and I said if he had been locked up for when he stabbed somebody, then he would never have went on. Simon would still be here today because he wouldn't have went on to kill somebody. And this is what happens, isn't it? They get away with it and end up killing somebody because they get away with stuff. but they were just the type of people that went robbing and stabbing people. That's what the gang were like, little druggies and smackheads. And then Kirk Guy tried to appeal his sentence. I heard of Simon's daughter, and the police had raided this house not long back and found £500,000 worth of cocaine, loads of money and everything, and all Kirk Guy's fingerprints were found on these drugs. And him and his brother got 10 years, so he's now serving 30 years, Kirk Guy. So the judge kind of laughed it out of court because he tried to appeal his sentence against Simon. But yeah, then I got another blow it was about 6 months later when I read it in the paper. But 2 months after Simon died, Carl had got a speeding ticket for his white van, transit van. And even though Simon had been dead 2 months, he forged Simon's signature and said that Simon was driving the van. And I knew then that he was never ever Simon's friend. He was very sly. He even tried to get the mental health team at court when he was getting sent down for the 5 year he got for the drugs, to try and say that he was too ill and he wasn't fit for court, to try and get out of it. But they knew he was lying, because all the way before the trial he'd never ever went to see a doctor to say he was mentally ill. So because he did it just when he was going to court, they thought, oh, he's just putting it on, trying to get out of going to jail. So he was hoping he was going to get sent to a mental hospital instead, but he didn't, and we got justice. But what really upset is the fact that he only got 2 months for the speeding ticket thing. I thought he only got like 8 weeks for that, and it just really annoyed us, because I just thought if that had been anybody else who'd done it to somebody, it would have been a lot longer. But I've been told he's probably a grass, like he goes to the police and grasses people up, so that's probably why they're dead lenient with him, because he grassed up these dealers and told the police everything. And I know that he said that when he got caught for the speeding ticket that he was getting death threats, him and his family. So I'm just thinking, is that because he's grassed loads of people up? He's probably on protection in prison. I've heard that. So it is quite, it's been quite distressing, just knowing that he was never a friend and he just left him to die. So if he had warned Simon that they were coming towards the van with a knife, Simon could have easily ran. He could have got away and ran away with Carl, but he never even warned him. Simon didn't even see it coming.
So do you think Simon knew about the drugs? Did Simon know about the drugs?
No, he didn't, because we'd been out all, like I say, we'd been out all day, and Carl even told the police he got out of the van to go to the toilet.
Right.
And that's what he had told Simon. But then he changed his story and told the police he got out of the van to do this drug deal, but he hadn't told Simon that. Simon just was oblivious to it. As far as Simon was concerned, he was just going out to get some mixers for his drink in the house, because he was diabetic, so he had to have low sugar, like things for like he would have to get like diet lemonade, just stuff with no sugar in, because he couldn't have anything with sugar in. So that's why, and we didn't have any in the house, so he went out to get it. So yeah, Carl kept changing his story with the police on numerous occasions. So he even tried, I've got all the text messages of him trying to get rid of the drugs, and all the messages he sent to Kirk Guy doing this drug deal. I gave all them messages, obviously, to the police, because he was blaming Simon. He was saying, oh, Simon did this, and Simon was the one whose the drugs were. He even tried to throw Simon under the bus, and Simon wasn't here to defend himself. But like I say, all the evidence was there. It was him that had set up the drug deal. He used his Facebook to do it. Simon didn't even know these people. So this is what the problem is. We all think that Carl knew what was going to happen that night, that he knew that Simon was going to get robbed for his van. But I don't think anyone was supposed to get killed. I think when they've stabbed Simon in the legs, they probably were just trying to stop him from running. and then they've hit a main artery, and that's how he's died. It's just been completely accidental, I think. I don't think they've meant to actually kill him. So this is how upsetting it is, because there's people who get stabbed, like obviously in the heart or like places like the back, and they survive. And I just think, how could he die of getting stabbed in the leg? But he didn't stand a chance. He just, like a doctor had told us, you would have to tie your belt around the wound within 2 minutes to stop the bleeding, otherwise it would just bleed out. And the fact that he'd been drinking, it kind of thinned his blood as well. And the fact he was diabetic, the doctor said it would have thinned his blood even more. So it was hard. It was really hard, and it's not something that you'll ever get over. I still cry now. Like, people think I'm all right on Facebook and stuff, but I still get upset when it's Christmas, or when Simon's birthday comes around, or like Easter, because that was the time he got killed, on the 20th of April, so it was round about near Easter time. So it'll be the anniversary of his death in April, on the 20th of April. So I've got that to contend with. Suffering from post-traumatic stress. I have nightmares seeing him lying there in the morgue. It's very hard. It really is hard. And I was in denial for so long until I seen his grave, thinking he was going to come back. I kept thinking, he's not dead. He's just working away. I used to tell myself he's going to come back. And I just couldn't tell myself that he was gone for good, because it made it easier. And then when I finally saw his grave where he's buried in Newcastle, it was just seeing his picture on there just made us just cry. I was heartbroken. It's just awful. But me and Keely had fallen out, Simon's daughter, but we got speaking again in October of last year, and she just says that, can we be friends again? My dad wouldn't want us to be fighting. He would hate for us to be fighting. He would be so angry. And then we've been speaking ever since. She come round and on Christmas, just after Christmas, and give Nikki some presents and stuff, and give me a present. And I bought her a present and give our kids some money and stuff. So we are getting on better with the family, and Simon's sister and mum and dad still stay in touch, because Nikki sees them as a grandparent and they see Nikki as a granddaughter. So we were quite a close family, and they've been very, very supportive towards us, the family, on Simon's side anyway. So yeah, it's been hard, but they've always just been a phone call away if I needed to talk to them. So yeah. And the fact that it's getting worse, the knife crime now, I can't imagine what people are going through. I can imagine it, but when you lose a son, like somebody lost a 16-year-old son on Boxing Day in Nottingham, it's about 40 minutes from me, and he got stabbed and he died a couple of days later in hospital. And I feel for the family, because it's happening all the time, and the government don't seem to do anything about it. They care more about the virus than they do about the knife crime.
Yeah. So you see, it's been 9 months, and so not even a year, and you've thrown yourself into knife crime campaigning.
I'm actually an ambassador for Change Your Life, put the knife down. So I do. I'm an ambassador for my area in Derby, and I do that for them. And I'm supposed to be boxing in this year. Hopefully, if this virus gets sorted out, I can go and do some boxing and raise money for people like victims of knife crime. That's the plan. But I do kickboxing anyway, so my trainer, Dean Williams, is going to train us for the fight, for the boxing. So I'll be fully trained and ready to go, really.
Mm.
Because I want to win. I want to win this fight, you see. And I want to raise a lot of money to help somebody, because a lot of people helped me when Simon died, fundraising. Rocky Torelli, who does truck pulls. I don't know if you've heard of him. So he raised about just over £3,000, and Joe Egan, who's a really good friend, he raised about I think it was about £16,000, £18,000. And I lost a house, because the house, Simon had took a £300,000 life insurance policy out on the house that we had got, and he didn't sign it. So
Right.
I lost everything. I had to go in temporary accommodation for about 3 months until I got the house I'm in now. And it's like a new build. It's just a 2-bedroom, but it's on a nice estate. The houses are probably like just over a year old, but they're lovely. And I'm happy being out of the area where I was living with Simon, because it was just too many bad memories. So I had to just move away. So I live at the next village from Belper, which is in a place called Alfreton in Derbyshire. So that's where I'm living now, and I'm a lot happier being here. Just not seeing all the memories and stuff. So yeah, it's been very difficult having to start all over again, but I had to do it for my daughter. I had to stay strong for her, so I had to put a roof over her head.
Mm.
And I had to do all the house out nice, which is what I used the money for. And one of my friends bought us a car, paid £7,000 for a car for us, which was really nice of him, because I had a Mercedes A class, and it went back to the lease company after Simon died. So I didn't have a car, and I had to get my daughter out of school and stuff, because our school was like 40 minutes from where I live. So it was like a 20 minutes there and 20 minutes back. So there was no like actual buses that went there. She would have had to get 2 buses, and she would have been late for school every day. So it was no option really. I had to have a car. So yeah, it's people have been very, 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 very helpful, and Joe's been like a godsend. If it wasn't for him, I don't know where I'd be. He's been very, very supportive, and he was like Simon's best friend. They were like brothers, and he's been left devastated by Simon's death. He said he was the kindest man he'd ever met in his life, and he's never had a friend like it ever, like him. So he still gets upset now about it, saying I wish he was still here and all that. But Joe does, he's an ambassador for Change Your Life, Put Your Knife Down. And he's just opened a boxing club. I think the first one opened in Leeds, Joe Egan's Boxing Club, in his name. And he's going to be opening them all over the country. So hopefully that'll get the kids off the streets and get them into boxing and stop all these gangs and stuff. It gives them something to do, so they're not bored, because that's what it's down to, isn't it? It's boredom, and just they get into the wrong crowd, start drinking on the streets. And then I know the people that killed Simon were on drugs that night when they killed him. So there was alcohol. They had been drinking in the park all day and were on drugs. So that probably made them a little bit more violent as well, not knowing what they were doing.
Yeah. So as a parent, how do you how do you deal with that with your daughter? It must be difficult.
It's very hard. It is hard, because I have to go everywhere in the car, and when I do, I lock the doors. I never ever, because you're like when you're sat at traffic lights and somebody could just try your door, and I just like to feel safe, so I always lock the doors. Because there was an incident just after Simon died. It was like in June 2019, where there was a road rager incident. This Asian guy pulled a gun out on us, and I've never been so scared in my life, to be honest. I thought he was going to kill us. And then the police armed police turned up and everything, and they found him, like just round the corner from where I was, and found the gun in his car, and he had to pay his £1,000 compensation. It was all over the Birmingham newspaper, so that kind of scared us as well.
Mhm.
And the fact that Simon had been stabbed, I was always kind of looking over my shoulder, and I hardly ever go out now.
Mm.
I suffer. I've got a personality disorder, and it's been made worse now, because of losing Simon. I get angry because I want to get angry with the killers, but I can't because they're in prison, so I can't come face to face with them. So I take it out on other people. So I'm on medication to keep my temper at bay, to keep us just on an even keel. And if I didn't take it, I'd probably be a raving lunatic. So yeah, I get PIP for personality disorder and for post-traumatic stress. So I'm like a disability, so it's not something that can be cured. It's just going to be with us for the rest of my life.
PTSD is a complex thing.
Yeah, they reckon it's very common. There's lots of people who've got it and they don't even know they've got it. But it's very hard to prove to the people who you try to get the money off, because I had to appeal because 3 times, and then when it went to court, I actually won. And they couldn't understand why I'd been turned down in the first place, but I'd actually won, because I wasn't lying, and there's so many people that lie about having it, and yet I was really bad with it, like just kicking off with people every day, and I had it so bad that I didn't even want to go out in the car anymore, getting angry with drivers and everything. That's how bad I was. So my medication kind of just helps us a lot, really helps us. Yeah.
So you have help around you now?
Well, my mum lives about 20 minutes. She lives like near Nottingham, so she's like 20 minutes from me. So I'll be seeing her tomorrow. I've seen her today, and she rings us all the time. So I've got my mum, but most of my family live in Newcastle, like my dad, and my sister lives in Hartlepool. Like my brother, he like lives with my mum. But that's it really. Most of, like I say, most of my family are back at home. So, but I've got a lot of supportive friends here in Alfreton, where I live now, who have been, like, one of them come to court with us when I went for Simon, and like her mum's a really good friend of mine as well. So they are very, very supportive. Yeah, they're brilliant. So I don't know what I would probably have done without them, to tell you the truth, because I've always been there when I've needed to talk, and when I've just wanted to kill myself, I commit suicide. They've always like, don't you dare do that. But yeah, it's been hard. And when I was getting loads of abuse about Simon being, oh, she probably just wants some money when she's selling stories to the paper because she hasn't got any drug money anymore, like things like that. And I got that upset with the Derby Telegraph. I wanted to take them to take the story down, so they had to turn the comments off so that people couldn't comment. And it just got so bad that I just wanted to take a load of pills and just end it all so I could be with Simon, because they were that hurtful, and it was awful. Oh, she probably needs some money to get some plastic surgery on her face, and just nasty, nasty comments. And the people that were saying it weren't even that nice themselves. They were like horrible, like really horrible and ugly. Do you know, just normally the case though. So I just, like I said, it pushed us over the edge, and I wanted to just end my life, because it doesn't matter what if you retaliate, it just makes them worse anyway. So I couldn't even reply and say, oh, look, he's they checked his fingerprints, weren't even on the drugs, but they're still going to say it. People still do it now on the knife crime page. Oh, well, Joe got accused of being a drug dealer for his boxing club. He says, oh, what's funding that? He's drugs. But Joe's a successful Hollywood star. He's done films with Vinnie Jones and stuff. Why would he be a drug dealer? And this is the abuse that we get. It's absolutely awful.
There's always people out there that are quick
I
to
think because
judge like
Joe's
that.
his friend, because Joe's Simon's friend, they just basically just assume, don't they? Because Joe's done a lot for my family. They just think, oh, wait, Joe's Simon's best friend, and he was in the paper talking about Simon. So people just assume, oh, well, he must have been in on it as well. He's a drug dealer as well, but it's not the case at all. It just isn't. Joe doesn't even like drugs. He doesn't even drink. He hates alcohol. He's never touched a drop of drink because he always likes to have his wits about him. So he doesn't even like drugs. So Joe would never ever entertain drug dealing. He wouldn't even take them.
Well, Joe's a class fighter as well.
Yeah,
Class
he was,
fighter.
but he had an injury, didn't he? I think he
Yeah.
had an injury and he had to stop fighting. Yeah. But he's a gentle giant, isn't he? He's just so kind, and he'd do anything for anybody, really. He's amazing. So yeah, hopefully we'll do some more stuff in the future with all the knife crime with Joe. And he'll put on I know Ben, who runs the campaign, the knife crime thing, he's wanting to put on a few boxing shows to raise money as well. So hopefully they'll turn out good. And there's a few people sold some boxing stuff, like boxing gloves, signed boxing gloves to raise money. So yeah, everybody's like kind of helping out and chipping in. And he's got a lot of ambassadors as well who are like for different areas. So he's got one in Coventry and Newcastle. So he's got them all over now, which is good. And it's got quite a lot of likes, hasn't it? The group. It's like I think it's about 7,000 now.
Yeah, if not more.
So he's doing so well, and he's just an electrician. That's all he is, and he just set up this page because he's had a family member who got injured to do a knife crime, and I think that's what gave him the motivation to do it in the first place. So yeah, he's done really well. We went to London on a knife campaign bus, and we went round and handed out leaflets, which was really, really good. And even the police took some leaflets as well. So yeah, but a lot of people just said, "Why would I want to stop knife crime when I want knife crime to happen?" There's this guy who we tried to give a leaflet to, and I was just totally gobsmacked. I just thought, you want people to get stabbed? And he was just like, yeah. And I said to my friend who was with us, Julie, I says he's probably got a knife on him now, walking around at the minute with a knife on him. And it was really scary to hear somebody saying that who didn't have any remorse for people getting killed or nothing. He just was like, I want it to happen. I love knife crime. And I was just like, what? So yeah.
How much of it about? There's a young lad in Norwich near where I am, just been murdered. It's difficult, and it's quite a wide sort of wide varied crime, but it's the police don't deal with it very well. It should be you carry a knife, you automatically get time. You use that knife, you get life.
When I was a kid, we used to fight with our fists to work out, like when we had an argument, that was how we used to sort it out. We used to fight one-on-one, and I never ever heard of people carrying knives or weapons. It just wasn't really a thing when I was a kid growing up. It's all just about weapons now. People just feel like they've got some kind of power, and they're not. They're just cowards. That's all they are. But if somebody's carrying a knife, in my eyes, they're going to use it, and I think that they should go to prison for at least 5 years if they get caught with one. That's what I think. And maybe if the courts were a little bit more like, instead of being so soft and more instead of being lenient, then they would carry the knives in the first place. They'd be too scared to carry them if they knew they were going to get 5 years for getting caught with one. And it's just, this is a problem because the law in this country is shit. And if Simon had been killed in America, they probably would never have got out. They would stay in prison for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, there's too many people quick to carry, but there's always has been like people that carry the knives, usually the ones that the trappy ones. I mean, I've been on the wrong end of a knife a few times, and it's always been the ones that have had the reputation, or tried to forge out a reputation, but not been able to do it with the fists. But I think it's just there's so many kids now carrying them. They're so widely available. A couple of years ago, I went to the fair with my kids, and we got a little on the hook and duck. We won a little cop set with handcuffs and a gun and stuff like that. And then it had this huge, great, long Rambo style knife, a plastic one, and it was just I couldn't even believe it. You know, just the audacity of it.
Yeah.
You know, just to put it out in a you know, even the toy would have hurt. It was sharp enough to hurt, and I don't get how they can put out things like that. You know, I come from a generation of cops and robbers and cowboys and Indians and stuff like that. But it's just such a different time now, and it's scary. You know, the kids carrying knives.
But knives don't, they seriously don't need to cut. They do not need to have a point on them anyway. Like, you're not using the top of the knife, you're using the knife itself to cut things like carrots or whatever. You don't need the point on them. So what's the point in having it on there? That's what I don't get. And I know that they have changed them a little bit, but I don't think they'll ever bang them, will they? They'll never get to that point. So it's just annoying because this is what we've got to deal with. I mean, in Birmingham, there's knife and gun crime. It's really bad for like gangs there, and Nottingham's getting bad as well for knife crime. It's really heartbreaking, like knowing that people are just going around killing people. There was a lad in London just got stabbed. It was on Ben's page. Apparently didn't stand a chance because there was loads of them, big gang. So it's just, yeah, it's hard. I mean, Simon, like there was 2 against him, maybe 2 or 3, so he didn't really stand a chance. Maybe if it was just 1-on-1, but apparently there was more than one, so he didn't really stand a chance neither. And the knife was a Rambo style hunting knife, so you would never have. It must have been so deep when they've put the knife in the main artery of his leg. There's no way you would have been able to stop the bleeding unless somebody tied something around it. And Carl could have done that. He could have took his top off and done that. But because he was just trying to save himself, he ran to the Toby down the bottom. There's like a pub called, do you know where you go for food at the Toby? There was one of them at the bottom on the corner, and he ran there and hid. Like he just hid. And I just thought, God, if that was Simon's mates from Newcastle, they would never have ran away and left him. They would have like seriously went to help him. They would never have ran away because us Geordies aren't like that. We're kind of like hot-headed. We just don't care about the dangers. Like if I'd been there, I probably would have went in there and probably got myself killed, to be honest. But I got told off a medium, Barry John, that because I believe in all that, and I went to see one after Simon died, and Simon come through, and he said that he was set up and murdered. He was set up to be killed, and he also said that I would have been killed that night if I'd. So when I got ill that night, I was meant to get ill because if I'd been all right, I probably would have went back out as well with him. And Simon said it would have been a double murder. I would have been killed as well. So it's funny how things turn out. And Barry John also said that Simon got a gut feeling that something bad was going to happen when he was there, but he just didn't know he didn't know what, but he just wished that he hadn't went, if you know what I mean. And his gut feeling turned out to be right, because he ended up getting killed. So it's heartbreaking to think that his last moments, he must have been so terrified, and being on his own with strangers, trying to resuscitate him and not having family there, must have been hard as well for him. It's hard. I try not to think about it, because like I say, like the 999 call was played in court, and it was heartbreaking, like having to hear that, listen to that. It was just, God, it was just hard. I can't even describe the pain that it was, and for his kids to have to listen to that as well, and his family, who were his brothers and his sister and his mum and dad, having to listen to that. So, yeah, so his mum, his mum and dad have outlived him. They lost the son, the firstborn son. Yeah, and they were actually on holiday as well. They were away on holiday when Simon got murdered, so they didn't even know, and the police couldn't get in touch with them, and they didn't want anything going in the paper. They didn't want to read it that their son had been murdered in the paper before hearing it themselves. So we waited before the papers printed anything, and waited till we got in touch with them to tell them before anything got printed about him. So yeah, they were absolutely devastated. Devastated.
I can understand that.
Yeah, he was such a hard-working guy as well. He had his own business. He was a high court enforcement officer. He worked 12-hour days. He made good money, and because he was hard-working, and he didn't need to be a drug dealer. He had a good livelihood, so Simon wouldn't have needed to earn an extra couple of grand doing drugs. So that's how I know for a fact he wasn't dealing, because I know how much money he made. And this is what's so annoying, that people can just have the audacity to call him that, when the police checked all the way through his finances. They knew that Simon had an accountant and how much money he was earning, so they knew that he wasn't a drug dealer anyway.
There's always people that will try and justify their lives with comments like that. They will always try to tear things down that they don't understand. It's a senseless crime to lose someone to something that violent. And I think that, you know, I'm not condoning it, but a lot of people don't understand, and they're afraid of what they don't understand, which is why they come out with the toxic comments, because it's their way of kind of dealing with it, whereas we have a different way of dealing with it. You know, I've lost people to knife crime. You know, I lost a good friend when I was made homeless, and he showed me how to survive, and he was murdered by a drug dealer to do with county lines. Stephen Stannard, his name was, and you know, there was people then that were like, oh well, he was homeless, and you know, he was a drug addict, and trying to, you know, drag him down for them to explain the severity of that crime to themselves. But at the end of the day, it wasn't down to Stephen, and it wasn't down to Simon. At the end of the day, it was down to the people that carried the knives. Because if you're going to carry a knife, you're going to use it.
Definitely.
You know,
but they were saying stuff like about Simon, like the haters, like, that's another drug dealer off the streets, we're glad he's dead, and all this. And that really hurt. That I just wanted to just kill him with my bare hands, just thinking, how dare you say that? He died the most violent death that have to suffer, to bleed to death, And then they had the nerve to say that he deserved to die. It was just heartbreaking to just see how people can be so vile and nasty when knowing that I was grieving as well. So yeah, I had people saying I was having an affair. I took all the stuff out the house and never give his kids anything, which was all lies, because I give his son and daughter loads of stuff. I've still got stuff in the house belonging to Simon that I'm giving his daughter. We're having a sort through this year after this virus is sorted out, and I'm going to give her some more of her dad's stuff. So that's how evil people are. They think that they can just assume. How do they know anything about us? Like, they don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but they just assume, say nasty things. So yeah, it's very hard having to deal with it, with people's hate and everything. It's just awful. But I just block them. I don't reply. I just block them. And I find it easier not to reply, because then that's what they want. They want you to reply.
It's trolls. I mean, I'm still learning how to deal with them, to be honest. I used to deal with them like that, and you can't do that anymore. But you know, there are people out there that will make it their business to sit behind a keyboard and say all these things that, you know, are really tear your heart out, to be honest. But I think over the past sort of year, I've learned that there are so many people that do that. You've just got to push that to one side, because, you know, that's toxicity. And you know, as survivors, we don't have room for toxicity. We can only really sort of push encouragement and positivity, but there's so much toxicity out there, especially around knife crime, and you know.
Well, I got a caution off the police last year. It was like, I think it was like in September time, and Carl's wife was saying things. She was one of the people that was saying I'd never give Simon's kids anything. This was the one that said Simon had only had a scratch when he got stabbed. The idiot. She brought my daughter to the hospital that night as well, and the police were mortified. They just were like, "Why are you bringing a 13-year-old and telling her that her dad's been stabbed?" Which was just, the police told her to take Nikki away to her friend's house, because they didn't want Nikki to see that, because it was too upsetting for her. But this Kelly, like I say, was saying nasty things to us. I retaliated, and I sent her a message saying, "You're nothing but a nasty bitch. Yes, your husband forged my partner's signature." And I also said that our family were murdering scumbags, because our uncle's in prison for killing. Can you remember the house fire in Derby when the kids got killed in the house fire to get a bigger house?
It's not Mick.
Yeah, that's her uncle. That's Carl's
Philpott or
wife's.
whatever.
Yeah, that's Kelly's uncle, which is Carl's wife's uncle. And when I said our family were murdering scumbags, I ended up getting done off the police for like nasty messages and stuff. And I just think to myself, but she didn't get done for just stressing me out. It was just me that got into trouble for it. And it really annoyed us, because I just thought they were allowed to say what they want, but when I do it to try to defend myself, I end up getting a caution for it. So
I think that what certain people like us, you know, survivors, those who are going through survivorship, I think we have to. There's so many people that are saying, you know, there needs to be a change. We're the people that need to implement that change, and to do that, we need to hold ourselves higher, above other people, and we need to just sort of refrain from, you know, as hard as it is, from getting into this and that with other people, and we need to just lead by example, and show love, and not you know, understanding to other people. We might not understand it ourselves, but at the end of the day, we have to be seen to be stronger
Well, my mum said she probably did it on purpose to try and get you into trouble. You fell right for it by retaliating. She's obviously done it to try and get you into trouble because she knew her husband was in prison, and she couldn't stand the fact that her husband was in prison and that we were just getting on with our lives. So she's just tried to get me into trouble. So that's she even told the police I'd phoned her up threatening her and stuff, and I never made any calls to her. And I said to the police, you can check my phone because I've never rang her. I never rang her once. So she was also a liar, a compulsive liar as well. So yeah, she's very, very, very nasty. And so is her husband.
I think, well, yeah, and I understand that, and I understand, there are things in my life that I've had to just put to the side. It's kind of, I've lost a lot of people, especially over the past few years, on a few to murder. I've lost family to murder, and it's a hard thing to palate. It's a hard thing to go through, and it either makes you or breaks you.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest part for me was unforgiveness, because I could not forgive these people that took my friends and family away from me. But that was affecting me, because what unforgiveness is it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. If you're hating someone, who is it affecting? Is it affecting you, or is it affecting them?
Yeah.
And it was affecting me. So I can't really forgive them, but I can kind of love them enough to keep them away, and love myself enough to sort of forgive myself for things that I could have done, should have done, would have done.
Yeah.
I would. I'd suggest that to anybody that's going through this. Really, it's not easy. It's not easy, and I know that you've got a lot of hate and you've got a lot of, hurt, and that takes time. And I mean, it's only been 9 months. You know, and for you to be doing this at 9 months
Oh,
is
it's more.
amazing.
It's not 9 months. It'll be 2 years in
Oh,
April.
2 years, sorry.
Yeah, it's 2 years in April. Obviously, if it had been 9 months, I would have probably been crying and stuff. But obviously, because it's all kind of sunk in now, and I've become a stronger person and everything, and I like the fact that I'm helping people. If it was just 9 months, like I say, I probably wouldn't be doing this interview now. I don't think I would have been ready.
Year and 9 months. Do apologise. Yeah.
So
it's still not that long though, is it? Really?
Yeah. It doesn't feel like it's 2 years, to be honest. It's actually flown by. I just can't believe he's been gone for 2 years coming up. It's just unbelievable. It's kind of shocked me. It just feels like a year to me. It doesn't feel like two. Yeah. But I just think to myself, they'll be getting out on parole one day, but they've got to serve their sentence before they do. They can go on to live the life. Simon can't ever live his life again, can he? Because they've took him away from us, and they shouldn't be allowed to walk free. They should never get out of jail. But Kurt Guy will be about in his 60s by the time he gets out, so he's going to be an old man anyway. He's not going to really be able to be in a gang anymore, be a drug dealer, is he? So
no,
he'll be thinking his pension by then.
Yeah, I mean, people. What gets to me is that people think about the victim, and people think about the murderer, but they don't think about the family and the friends and the partners and the children, that it affects. It affects so many people, you know. I'm sorry, we've lost her. We'll try and get her back. yeah. Yeah, I've got her here. I'm going to try and get her back on. Yeah, it's nerve crime is so difficult. And to lose somebody to murder is so difficult. We when you lose someone like that, it's like a part of you dies. It takes a part of your soul, and we as the family and friends, it's so hard. And for Shantel to be doing this is just absolutely amazing. I'm not sure I could have done it. That near to it happening. It's certainly a thing that I've had to build myself up to be able to deal with some of the things that I've dealt with, and some of the feelings that it's brought up for me, and to do that for anybody is amazing. I've had to do it sober, which is something that I never really had. And it's something that's still quite new over the past 6 or 7 years. And the best thing about getting clean and sober is your feelings come back, and the worst thing is your feelings come back. People like Shantel are the reason why I started doing podcasts like this, because I wanted you guys to hear from the points of view of people like Chanel and Ben, who was on last year. It's not easy at all. So yeah, we've got Chanel back. Just give us a second. Just connecting to audio again. We had a bit of problems with this earlier on, so I do apologise.
Sorry about that. My mum she just rang, and I've just told her don't ring us because I'm in the middle of doing an interview. So
That's all right.
She wasn't to know. She didn't know that I should have told her, really. So,
that's all right.
So yeah,
that's all right.
I hope I haven't ruined the video. Are we back live again?
Yeah, we're back live again. I was just explaining that for anybody to deal with this as a person, it's difficult. Personally, in my own story, I used drugs for so long that it kind of numbed me as a person, and the things that I've gone through over the past 6 or 7 years that I've been sober, coming up to 7 years in June. It's been quite a difficult process, but it's helped me find me. I've gone through some real loss in sobriety, but I've had some good gains. I've been involved with film, and I've done the books, and I've started this. But the reason I started this podcast was to give people like you a platform and a chance to be able to stand up there and tell your stories. I kind of lost where we were, but I think you were saying about we were talking about sort of dealing with it. Are you Are you in sort of with the mental health
There's
team?
they like to wait a while. They like to wait till it sinks in first before like you go on a waiting list. So they normally like to wait about a year and a bit. So because I've been so down and everything, I didn't let it sink in for a while, but I'm on like a waiting list now to see a counsellor. But obviously because of the virus as well, it's just hard, isn't it, to see somebody face to face because nobody's kind of seeing anybody. You can't even get an appointment in the doctors unless it's an emergency because I'm not seeing anybody face to face. So it's like you and the dentist, it's like you can't do anything, can you, at the minute? It's just
No, I was at the
nightmare.
dentist yesterday. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
You have to wait outside, and then it's kind of like clandestine. You have to put your mask on, and then they drag you in, and
With the vet, you've got to, if you're taking your dog or your cat to the vet, because I've got both dogs and cats, and they're going to get an injection or whatever, you've got to take them to the back, and they've got to open the fire exit to take your dog. You can't even go in. So that's what I actually got told. That was the first lockdown, when they weren't letting anybody kind of come inside. You had to take a pet to the back door. So it was like stupid, really. Well, you're not even allowed to go in the room now, even when it's not lockdown. You used to be allowed to go in the room with your pet, but you're not allowed now. You've got to wait outside.
it's a different
So our
world that
pet
we're
could
in.
be stressed though, like going in on their own, not having their owner with them. So it must be quite hard for them.
Yeah, it's a different world. We're certainly in a different world, and it's gonna last for a while, I think. But one thing that I sort of champion is taking care of your mental health and sharing with people.
Yeah,
And
I had a friend who killed herself in the last lockdown, and her 15-year-old son found her. So it affected her really badly because she turned to drugs in the lockdown, and she was addicted to cocaine, I think it was, and she was working in a gym, and because she lost her job, she ended up taking her life. She had just turned 40, beautiful looking girl, and just her son ended up finding her, which is so selfish to kill yourself and then for your child to find you. Like what the hell is that going to do to her kid now? It's going to be with him for the rest of his life, finding his mum dead. So yeah, this is why I won't do it, because of Nikki, because I just think it's a selfish way out. And I just couldn't do that to her because she's been through so much losing her dad. I think it would push her over the edge if she lost me as well.
I think we all deal with it differently. I mean, I've been through. I've attempted suicide several times, and we can't always think about the selfishness. It's not sort of. It's not there. It doesn't click with us. It's difficult. It's a difficult one.
I
For a
got
lot of
told off the
people.
doctor it's normal though. It's actually normal to have suicidal thoughts after losing somebody to murder, because it's just they said we would think that it was strange if you didn't have thoughts like that. So they said it was natural for us to feel like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's been very hard, like I say. Loads of times where I've had to stop myself and thought about who would suffer if I did take my life, and the fact that my mum would be devastated, and my family and my daughter, and because I've got a son as well who turns 18 on the 23rd of January. So it just wouldn't. He lives with his dad. He doesn't live with me. But yeah, it's like I couldn't do that to my children. I just couldn't do it. Like I say, it's just not. It's not nice, and it's just not clever. And very, like I say, very selfish to do it when you've got kids. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't, like I say, I don't think that selfishness for when we're in that sort of spot, I don't think it doesn't come in. I've got kids, I've got family, and it's not something that has ever really sat there, because when those feelings get so hard, it gets so hard. you know, and yeah, I mean, it's so difficult to deal with. But there
I've had
isn't.
somebody say to me though that I was selfish when I said I was going to kill myself on Facebook. I had a guy messages, "How can you be so selfish when you've got children?" And he made me sit. And then I thought to myself, he's made me feel like this now. He's right. I am selfish, because how could I even think about contemplating doing that when I've got my kids to think about? But the fact my daughter needs us, she's only 15, and what would she do? She couldn't look after herself. She'd have to go into care because she wouldn't have anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, that I can understand. You know, I mean, I've got a 15-year-old boy coming up 15 anyway, and you know, other kids that are teenagers and younger kids. But you know, I'm in a good place at the minute, but I'm not going to say it doesn't get dark at times, because it does. You know, that's the way that poor mental health works. It attacks you at your very core. It attacks you at your very soul. It's not just a
It
mental
doesn't help,
illness.
does
It's
it?
a
It doesn't help with the lockdown either. It's there's a
no.
lot of my film projects have been put on hold, and it's just
Okay.
so annoying. Last year I was supposed to do some films, and then again in January, but obviously then we got put in lockdown again, and I didn't think it would be another year. I didn't think 2021 we were going to be in lockdown again. And it's just really starting to annoy us now, to tell you the truth, that we can't just live normal lives and get on with doing stuff like going on holiday and having fun and being able to go into a bar. There's no social life anymore, is there?
No, I mean, you know, I'm not a great one for going out anyway, to be honest. I don't drink, you know, I don't go out drinking or anything. So, you know, I mean, I potter about, I do what I need to do. I go out, if I need to go out, I go do the shopping and that. But, you know, the first lockdown was hard, because it was almost so much that you can do. Because there is, I mean, there's phones and computers and Netflix and Disney Plus, and there's so, you know, so much that you can put your head in, and it gets stifling. So then you just don't do anything. You end up sitting watching mind-numbing telly for hours on end.
And you become lazy. You become lazy, lying in bed watching telly all day, and that's how I feel, because you can't go anywhere or do anything. I mean, you can't travel, so I can't even go and visit my family. I can't go and visit my friends. I can't do anything really. And I would like to be able to go out for a meal, like in a restaurant, just go and sit and have a nice Italians or something. But we can't, because I'm not a drinker myself. I don't really drink that much, but I do like to go out for the odd meal. So, and I suppose everybody else is probably thinking that as well. Probably so annoyed about it. So it would be nice to just go out for a coffee on a Sunday with my mum and my daughter, but I can't do that anymore, and I used to do that all the time. So yeah, it's pretty annoying, like. Yeah. And the fact that I used to go to Newcastle and visit my family and my friends, and I can't even do that because of the risk of getting a £200 fine. So it's just a nightmare, an absolute nightmare.
Yeah. So what's next for you then?
I'm doing it. I've got to do a self-tape for this new TV series. So the guy who's doing it is going to send me the script. So I'm hoping that I'm going to get myself a role in that. And then I'm doing a horror for the multi-award-winning film director, Patrick Ryder.
Yeah.
And just hopefully there's other projects I've been asked to do. I've been talking to a director from Manchester who's just finished a film, and he said he'd love us to be in his next films. I'm doing a film called Survivor, and I'm hopefully doing a film about Simon, you know, like about knife crime, like a drama, and just relive that night when Simon got killed and get somebody to play him, but to put it into like a film kind of drama, and then like me be in it as well, but to get somebody that looks like Simon as well. So I've been in talks with the director about writing that. So yeah, I've got a lot to look forward to, and I'm actually training to be a stunt fighter. But
Nice.
obviously I can't do that at the minute because of the lockdown. So like I say, everything's on hold, and it's just an absolute nightmare. So, and then my car got stolen a couple of weeks ago, so that didn't help. Just after the new year, my car gets stolen. Had a Peugeot RCZ, like a nice little sports car, gets stolen. And I had left it at my mate's for a couple of days because I've been to hers for a drink because I was feeling down on the Sunday. And then I said to myself, oh, I'll just go and get the car because I was feeling a bit hungover the next day. I go and get the car on the Tuesday, and I went down about, it must have been around about 5:45. Got my friend to take us down, and it was gone. So I phoned the police, still hasn't been found, and I've just got a hire car at the minute until my insurance company pays out. So now I've got to, in lockdown, I've got to go and hunt for a new car. None of the garages are open, so that does not help. So yeah,
No.
it's just everything just seems to be going wrong. And I'm normally a positive person, but just because of the lockdown, I just feel down, like I've got no motivation anymore. So this is before I could keep busy with my films and do stuff, but at the minute we can't do anything, can we? And it is becoming very depressing, definitely. And I bet you there's loads of people that think the same thing. I bet there's loads of people on Facebook that probably feel exactly the same way as me. And if they say that they're not, they're lying, because it must be doing people's heads in. It's enough to send you insane. From being somebody that travels around the country like I do, to being stuck indoors, I'm just not used to it. I suffer anxiety and everything, stuff like that. And it's getting to the stage now where I feel like I can't breathe being in this house.
No.
My life of fun at the minute is going shopping for me weekly food shop in the supermarket, and that's what I've got to look forward to. So where are you going today? I'm just going to pop to Asda, or maybe I might go to Tesco this week. Do you know what I mean? For a change of scenery.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what it's like. Just an absolute joke.
We'll get by. We always do. We'll get by. I think it'll start easing off in the next few months.
I'll just be like, I like to be able to do the stuff for the knife crime and be able to get started with Ben and doing little projects to do with the knife crime. But we can't, like I say, we can't do anything at the minute with this lockdown. So as soon as that's lifted and everything goes back to normal, we'll be doing all these boxing shows.
Yeah.
Ben said he was very proud of us for doing this interview.
We're all proud of you.
Really happy.
Yeah. You've done absolutely fantastic. That's the one thing that I wanted your story to do, was show the actual real side of crime. I speak about crime a lot from being an ex-criminal, and I've spoken to people that have that have been on the opposite end of crime, but actually you are the one that's in between, and I think that it's stories like yours that are pushed to the sides, which is exactly why I wanted to get you on.
The killer's mum, John Williams' mum, had posted on our son's wall saying she was so proud of her son. My son, John Williams, I'm so proud to be his mum. And the type of family that turned up in court like something out of Shameless in tracksuits. We were all like and suited up and booted and everything, all like dead posh and looking very smart. And they turn up with greasy hair, tracksuits on, and it was just, God, it was horrible. They were just pure scumbags. And it made us realise that when you look at the family, it's no wonder their sons turned out the way they did. Just seeing the family just says it all, really. The fact that their own mother is proud that her son's a killer. How can you be proud? I would disown my son if he murdered somebody in cold blood like that. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't be happy at all.
No. I do accept that we all deal with things like that differently. It's certainly not the way that I would deal with it. I'd like to think that I'd stick by my children no matter what, but it's at the end of the day, they're my children. But just because you stick by your children doesn't mean that you'd condone behaviour like
I
that.
think the hope that they were going to walk free. I think that's what the family hoped. That's what they had. It so they were so deluded that they actually thought that their sons would walk free. And the killer blamed the driver of the car, said that it was him that killed Simon just to get himself, just so he didn't get done for murder. Blamed his own friend and tried to set his own friend up to say that he had killed him. No, that's not a friend. That's just vile. It's just disgusting to do that to your own friend. But he got found. The judge seen the Derby Telegraph actually said the killer was a very low intelligence. They were taking the piss out of him, saying he was thick as pig shit and all that stuff. And they obviously were thick to do that in the first place. They hid the knife in a fish tank, and the police found it. So, but yeah.
I don't think that I don't know what would have been going. Yeah, I tried to empathise with everybody from all sides. I don't know what would have been going through any of their minds, but to stab someone is, it takes a special kind of person in my eyes to do that.
I'd love to be able to get in the mind of a killer to see what goes on in their head, to tell you the truth. When you get in the mind of a serial killer, you see these programs on telly, but to be able to know what goes on in the last moments of putting the knife in somebody, like what's going through the head.
I don't think
Is
we
it
can
some
ever
kind
really.
of? Is it their adrenaline where they're just like getting themselves all worked up and they become like a psycho killer? Like I have to stab somebody and get that excited about it, because there's people who think it's a good thing to do things like that actually get a buzz off it, and then there's people who don't mean to do it. But like I say, if he's went out with a Rambo style hunting knife, that to me says he was going to use it. It wasn't just an ordinary kitchen knife.
No.
It was a hunting knife, so he obviously carried it around with him, which is it just doesn't bear thinking about just what Simon must have went through, having that plunged into his legs. I mean, you know yourself, if you cut your finger, it just pours of blood. Imagine how much blood he must have lost.
I've been on the end of a knife. It's not nice. It hurts. And that was in the chest. So I can only imagine what it was like. I wouldn't want to. But all we can do really is try and highlight, as ambassadors. I'm the ambassador for the East of England for Ben, and I think we can only highlight things like this. We can highlight how it affects us as people, how it affects us as family, but we can also highlight what needs to be done, and there needs to be some serious reform in the law about knives. I know that the knife a month thing that was going on, where people could subscription thing, I think that's now been banned in England. So that's the going in the right way. I think
it would be educational as well, because I've said to my friend that when everything goes back to normal, because at the minute it's hard to be able to write to send an email to the schools around the area, and just like where I live, in the prisons, and do talks about knife crime and the effects of knife crime, because I've been through it, and just tell them this is what will happen. You end up in prison if you carry a knife. you could lose somebody in the pain that you go through, and I'd love to tell my story so it would stop somebody from, if it means that I'm going to save at least a couple of lives by doing that. I would love to be able to do talks around the country and do that. So hopefully eventually Ben will do that and send emails out to do some talks and stuff. So, but that's my next step. That is my next step, to just send them the thing that I'm an ambassador for Better Change Your Life. And because I've got like he's done like a little leaflet with me on it, and send that to them and just say, I do this. I would love to do talks to all the children and just tell them how bad knife crime is. So that's my next step. That's what I want to do next, is to just help try and prevent it.
It's very commendable.
Definitely.
It's very commendable.
I mean, even you could do that in your area as well, because I think it needs to be done, really.
Yeah.
That's the steps, is going to prisons and schools and talking to people.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate to go into the local college and talk about my life as it was, to be able to educate through friends of mine. This is a step that I'm hoping to take. I have in the past gone into schools and spoke about addiction and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that we're in a position now where we need to be able to educate. Even this is a point where we're, educating people.
Definitely.
Because, having been there, done that, it's living through the trauma and the stress. I think that being a survivor, the next inherent step is to become a thriver. From victim to survivor, survivor to thriver, and to do that, I think that we need to educate. So, I do commend you for wanting to do that.
I actually worry when my daughter, like, obviously she doesn't go out much with the lockdown, but when she does go out with her friends, I worry all the time, like what she's getting up to. And like she said herself that she was in Belba and there was some lads from another village and they were carrying knives, and they were like 15, 16-year-olds. And they said that they were after a friend, Jack, and my daughter was worried that they were going to stab him. She shouldn't have to worry about things like that though, at her age. Worry about if somebody's going to stab a friend and stuff. So yeah, it's just frightening that you can't go anywhere these days without somebody pulling a knife out on you to steal your car, somebody pulling a knife out on you to mug you. That's what it's like now. It's just all violence. So, I mean, they do that, don't they? Even road rage, they pull a knife out. I've heard about somebody getting out of the car. One of Joe's friends got out of the car and says, do you mind not tailgating us? And the guy pulled a bloody massive big knife out on him when he says he just went F off and then showed him this knife. So Joe's friend was like a bit taken aback. He was just like, ran back in his car and thought, I'm not getting stabbed. But yeah, if that was me, I would have phoned the police and said, just took his reg and said, oh, he's got a knife in his van. If that was me.
We live in a different time. I grew up in the 80s. And it was a different time. People dealt with things differently. Crime was different. How people, even how criminals thought was different. But it's a different sort of criminal these days, and it's a younger sort, and the amount of kids in schools carrying knives and things like that. I do think that schools need to be tackling it as well.
Oh, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, because there's kids as young as 10 and 11 carrying knives these days, so it needs to be talked about a lot in schools now. I think definitely needs to be highlighted big time, so people know the dangers of it. Because I think they just think they're clever carrying a knife. I don't think they realise the consequences of what will happen if they use it. They probably don't know that they're going to go to prison when they're just a kid, but they'd go to a young offender's place, wouldn't they, at the end of the day?
Yeah, I do think kids know more than they're given credit for. I just think that some just don't actually care, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's sort of, it's an unprecedented time, and I think that we have to,
This is the other one, Cleo. This is the little girl. You can tell she's a girl, can't you?
yeah.
She's like, will you leave me alone? I just want to go to sleep.
Bless her.
Oh, are you tired? Are you feeling drowsy? Yeah, they get very tired because they're just little dogs, you see. They're Maltese terriers. So I've got the mother, the son, and the daughter. So
Nice.
yeah, ended up keeping the puppies from the mother. Fell in love with them. But they've helped us a great deal since Simon died. They've been there for us. And I know it sounds crazy, but they've never left my side. They follow us everywhere. They give us lots of cuddles, and like, I don't know how I would have got through it without them, just having all that love and attention of them. Yeah, so, but having them there with us has just really helped us cope and get through it. So yeah, if I hadn't had them, I probably would have been still down now. But they make us wake up every day just knowing I've got them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I'll do, I want to thank you for coming on, and being open and honest. It's certainly been an eye opener for me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end the live now, and then we'll just have a quick chat, and then I'll let you go.
Right, no problem.
Thanks, guys, for watching. As always, I'll put the link to Change Your Life, Put Down Your Knife in the comments down there. And if anybody has been affected by anything, do send that we've spoken to, do send an email to the page, and we'll try and get you any help that we can. Yeah, thanks, guys. I shall see you again soon. And thanks as always for tuning in.